So today we are going to see some more examples on inheritance. So let us recollect back what we had. Like the types of inheritance and all. So to start with, I'll start with the single inheritance. Okay. So it will be like a class and another class, right? So this is another class. So within this class, if I want to have a connection, so I can have a connection, right? From here to here, we had a connection. So this is, suppose say A class, and suppose say this is B class. So basically this is like a single inheritance. Okay. Like from a class A, you are inheriting the properties of class B. Okay. So this is one part, and we can see the coding as well on the same part. Okay, just to recollect what we have studied earlier, and then we can proceed further. Okay, and next we have multiple inheritance. So in that case, like suppose say I have a line, and we had a multiple inheritance. So how a multiple inheritance can be made? So there is a class A, there is a class B, okay, there is a class C. So in this case, we are inheriting the properties from class A to inheriting the properties from class A to class B in this way. Okay. Yeah. So this is class A, this is class B. There are two separate independent classes. Okay. So I want to inherit the properties of both A and B in class C. So basically this is called as multiple inheritance. Okay, multiple inheritance. And we have hierarchical inheritance as well. So what is a hierarchical inheritance? So we have a class A. Out of class A, we have class B, class C, class D. Okay. So in this case, I'm inheriting from class A. This way, like I can say, I am inheriting the properties of class A. Just to have a brief idea on this, class A, class B, class C, class D. Okay. So this is a hierarchical inheritance. hierarchical inheritance. Okay. So this is a hierarchical inheritance wherein from a one class, that is the base class, we can create multiple child classes. Okay. So this is about your hierarchical inheritance. So we have so many like this. Okay. So I'm just creating those all hierarchical inheritance so that once we are done with this, so what we can do is we can write a code accordingly to implement all those. Okay. So this is hierarchical inheritance. Then we have got multi-level inheritance, right? So it is a multi-level means what? From class A to class B. So from class B to class C. So it is a multi-level. So we can have a multi-level inheritance on the same. This is class A. This is class B. And this is now class C. So we are inheriting from multiple levels. So hence this is called as multi-level. Multi-level inheritance. And we have got a hybrid inheritance also, or else it is also called as a multi-path inheritance. So what is that hybrid inheritance or multi-path inheritance? We can see it now. Like suppose say we have got class A, we have got class B, we have got class C, okay, and we have got class D also. Okay, so we can see how this has been inherited. So suppose say we want to inherit from class A to class B and all. Okay, similarly from here to here. So we can have the classes now defined. Yeah. Okay. So we have got these classes like it is a class A, I can say. Here we have class B, here we have got class C, and here we have got class D. Okay. So what actually you mean by a hybrid inheritance or a multi-path inheritance? So I'll just write it down, this part. So this is hybrid inheritance, hybrid, or I can say it is multi-path inheritance. So here, as I was telling you that this is a hybrid or multiple path inheritance. Why actually it is called as hybrid or multi-path inheritance is we are getting the properties of A to D from either B or either C. Correct, na? So that is why it is called as multi-path. So the paths are different. So the path, the properties of A, like it is inherited to D either from A to B, B to D, or either from A to C and C to D. Correct? So that is why it is called as multiple path. And as well as why it is called as hybrid, because from A we are getting what kind of inheritance this is. If you can see from A, like if you can see this in hierarchical inheritance, from A we are inheriting B, C, D, right? So that is what, like from A, B and C are becoming like a child inheritances, right? So B and C will be the child inheritance of A. Again from B and C, right, we are inheriting the individual properties of B and individual properties of C, and as well as the properties of A to be inherited to D. So that becomes a hybrid inheritance kind of thing. So that is why it can be a hybrid, it can be called as a hybrid or multi-path. Okay, so hope this explanation is true for you, and we shall see some of the examples on the same, right? So step by step we can see it. Yeah, now we are writing down some a demo application on single inheritance. For example, we have now include the directories or include our header files. So IO stream, the header file I have included, and using space std, we have to now write a class, right? So suppose say I am writing class add data, okay, and suppose say this is base class kind of thing. So for the same, like I can write this as a base class, okay. So I have a method, or I need to write up um, access specifier. I need to write this access specifier, and we already know from uh, the table or from the lookup table saying that if we are writing some access specifier to a certain variables or certain members of a class, and how they are inherited to the another class, right? So whether they are inherited or not inherited, so those all depends on the access specifier we are specifying for the members of a class. So suppose say if we are writing private members, you know that when a class is inherited to from A class to B class, so the members of A class who are defined as private member cannot be inherited to class B, isn't it? So that is why either we need to give it as public or either we need to give it as protected members. So hence public means again like it can be accessed outside the main class also or outside the class also. Hence it is very riskier for us to give the members of the data or the properties of the data, or you can say the attributes of the class outside the class. So basically we try to avoid using public access specifier. So whenever it is necessary, we will be giving it, but otherwise try to avoid. So hence, whenever we design a class in our mind, we need to keep in mind that yes, if the members are to be inherited, then it should be like a protected, and then we can think of a public. Otherwise, if the members are not to be inherited, it should be like private members. So basically, before designing or before we code in, so while we are designing a class diagram or we design a class itself, so we should think that whether it will go with the protected or public or private. So now as I'm demonstrating the inheritance, that is that too of a single inheritance. So here I will be taking the access specifier as protected. So protected, then I'll have some numbers like int num1 comma num2. Okay, I'm just adding some data. Then I want to have some what do you say, the methods or the interfaces now. So that will be like, definitely if I'm saying an interface, it would be like a with the access specifier called as public, right? So that it is accessed outside the class. Okay. So hence, if I'm saying void input, okay, so input data kind of thing. So in this case, I'll be writing the input methods for the same. So that is nothing but cout. I can say enter the two values, that is num1 comma num2. Okay. Can have intel if it is needed. So see in, I can say num1 2. Okay. So this way I'll be completing the method for input. Okay. So can I say it as input values? Just keep it as input values kind of thing so that it looks good enough. Or IP also I can say input values. That way it will be short enough. Next, if I'm getting this num1 and num2 in class A, okay. Now, if I'm inheriting this class A to class B now, okay. So I'll be inheriting what all members? Of course, num1 and num2, correct? So with num1 and num2, what all I can do? So that I'll be doing it in class B, okay. So in that case, now I'll be writing class B kind of thing. So it will be like, suppose say for example, I want to do a multiplication, multiply values, okay, multiply values. So class B, which is like, or a class B is which is like multiple values, or I can say I'll be using the num1 and num2 of class A in class B, that is multiple values, to multiply the two values. And definitely we have to have an inheritance. Okay, so inheritance mode I need to specify here. So the inheritance mode, you already know that, like if we are writing private, what it happens, if we are writing protected, what it happens, and if we are writing public, what happens. So here, if we are writing it as public, right? So the class A values which are public, it will be a public to the inherited one. So the class A's, if suppose say if we are writing inheritance mode as like private, so hence the class B will have all the private members, or the protected and public members will become private to class B, so that further there is no inheritance of those values, right? So in that case, so when you want to design it, so you have to design it in a proper way. Like suppose say from class B, if I want to inherit to class C, that is in multi-level, right? So now itself you need to see whether I'm inheriting certain properties of class A to class C. So wherein B is in between class A and class C. So in that case, if I'm inheriting certain properties from class A, so to class C, so that has to be inherited. So in that case, the inheritance mode of class B should not be like in a private mode, should be like in a protected, or like, or it should be in a public mode. Then only it can be inherited. So that is the meaning of the inheritance mode. So here I am taking it as public and add data. Okay. So here I'll be getting int, or I can say I need to specify the access specifier. If I'm not specifying the access specifier, you already know by default all the values or the members will be private, isn't it? So I can say int multiplication or multiply. Okay, int mul I can say, or small letters mul I can say, right? Then I will be specifying some access specifier to get the methods of class B. So what would be the methods of class B? Now suppose say I can say void, I can say multiply, void multiply. So here what I'm doing is multiply is equal to num1 into num2. So num1 into num2. Okay. So this way I'm multiplying the two values. So hence that is the basic usage of the multiply method. And now suppose say I want to display the multiplied value, I can use it. So void result I can say. So result I can say now cout, okay, multiplication of two numbers is equal to, okay, mul, okay, and then. So that is the job of the result, okay, and this way I'll be completing the class B also, okay. So hence a single level inheritance is up, right? So once you are done with the class definitions, okay, and the declaration of the class, with the 90% of the work is done total. So only the thing is that you are supposed to write the actual driver code for the same, and that is, it is basically nothing. Okay, so main is for any IT engineers, it would be like designing a class. Okay, so now I'll be writing a driver code for the same. So it is int main. Now we have got I have to take class B's as a object to be created. Okay, so I can say mul values. Okay, the name of the class, and an object I need to create on class B, that is mul values. So hence it will be like M. Okay, so capital M I'm taking as a object of mul values. Now what I need to do? Yes, first I need to input the values. So how I can access the members of the class A in class B? Yes, of course, using a object specifier with a dot operator, and then we need to say IP values, isn't it? So I hope this is the correct IP. Yeah. So IP capital B values. So input values. So once the values are input, then what we need to do? We need to multiply the two values. So M dot multiply. So I'm multiplying the two values, and then M dot result. So hence it is the way you are now doing the sum operations on class P. So hence the return 0, closing our main. So I'll write this function. Okay, so it is single in dot cpp. I'll open up another terminal. Okay, so I'll compile this. So hence the compilation is successful. So I can write an A dot out. Now it is asking me to enter the two values. Now suppose say like 5 and 8 if I'm doing, enter the two values, 5 is a 40. So the result should be like 40. So like, yes, of course, you are getting the values as 40, the result as 40. So hence you can see that using class B, like I am inheriting the values. So this is class B. So using class B, I am getting the values of num1 and num2 using input values. So hence these input values is a member of class A, right? And num1 and num2 are the private protected members of class A. So those values I'm inheriting it and doing some calculation, and based on that itself, like we are presenting the result. Now suppose say in the same way, if these are private members, so what will happen in that case? Whether I'll be getting the result or not, let's see that part. So I'll be writing this private, and now like num1 and num2 has become private to class A. It is not accessible outside the class A, correct? So in that case, if I'm compiling the two, if I'm compiling the same program without any much changes, I have just changed the access specifier of class A from protected to private for declaration of num1 and num2. In that case, let's see if I'm compiling what happens. So hence you can see in class B, I was accessing num1 and num2, right? Directly I was accessing it. Hence outside the class A, I am unable to access the members of class A outside the class, outside that class. So hence only the protected and public members of class A can be accessed in class B or outside the class A, I can say. So this is the use of single inheritance, and that's why it has been named as single inheritance. Why? Because we are just inheriting from class A to class B. That's it. So hence I'll make it as protected back. Okay. And even if it is public also, no issues, you can do the same thing. Okay, but anyway, it has to be protected because we don't want that num1 and num2 to be again further carried out as a inherited value. So only we are restricting it. Okay, so that way if we are restricting it, so hence it will be like protected. So this is the use of like class, and this is the use of single inheritance. Now let us see the other part. So what is that other part is we can see multiple inheritance. So basically what is multiple inheritance? Like we have class A and class B, two separate classes are there. From class A, we are inheriting properties of class A to class C. Again, we are inheriting the properties of class B to class C. So hence it will become a multiple inheritance. So we shall see some demo examples on the same. So if you have any doubt, guys, please you can ask me. So no doubt. Okay. So next we will see the example on the same. Yeah. So this is multiple inheritance.cpp. Okay. Now we shall see a program on the same. So for multiple inheritance, definitely what are the requirements? There are to be two base classes. out of two base classes, we are going to inherit into class derived, right? So two different base classes, I'm inheriting in a class C, right? So that way, like it will become a multiple inheritance. So hence, I can say this one as demo of multiple inheritance. Okay. Include the header file and the namespace. And as you know, like now we are going to have two different like base classes. Now, for example, I'm considering the base class as a worker kind of thing. Okay. So, wherein a worker or an employee, okay, who has got his own um, the name, salary, and his code can be right. This is a part of one worker or an employee. And now suppose say like I have another class called as suppose say work in a factory method, I can say, like if it is a factory or an industry, okay, non-IT sector, I can say it will be like an officer and a worker kind of thing, right? So suppose say if it is a worker, he will be having his own code, he will be having his own name, salary kind of thing. For an officer, definitely like suppose say if he is an officer, so what are the different other methods he can have, or different other properties he can have, like suppose say he can have a DNS allowance, he can have a HRA. So hence we are creating some different properties for the class officer. Okay. So that way, like I'm just thinking if we can implement these two base classes, okay, so that only the officer can enjoy the DA and HRA kind of thing, right? So that way I'm just thinking in that manner. Now I want to create another class, so which are inherited from a worker as well as officer. So suppose say a manager can enjoy, yes, HRA, DA kind of thing, but he will also have what all properties, a code, employee code, right? His name, salary, definitely a class manager can have that thing, isn't it? So that way I want to create a class manager kind of thing. So hence this would become a multiple inheritance. Okay, but even the class manager will be having his own what uh, the properties. Okay, his own properties is like we can have a gross salary. We can have like TA also can be applied. Suppose say for managers only the TA is allowed. Okay. So that way, like he is enjoying those benefits being a manager. Okay. So let us think in that way and try to draw a class, for example. I'm just giving a basic idea of like, yes, how the classes would be, how they are linked with each other. Okay. And then based on this thinking, we will draw the actual code for the same. Okay. So again, this would be like class. I can say like a worker or an employee, I can say employee. Okay. So employee can be anything, isn't it? So hence this is employee, and we have got a class as as I was telling you, it would be like a officer. Yeah, officer. Okay. Another class would be like Yes. Okay. So, but this manager will be inheriting the properties of like the employees, right? Definitely. So it would be like public. The mode of inheritance will be like public to employees. Okay, employee. And definitely, if I want to inherit another class, so it can be used using a comma operator. So comma operator, again the inheritance mode I need to specify. So it will be like public officer. Okay. So that way, like I will be having this class manager created using class A and B. Now class A is employee, class B is officer. Okay. So I'm inheriting both the properties of employee and officer. So that way I'm creating this class manager. But of course, class employee, class officer, and class manager have they got their own attributes or their own properties. So now let us design those classes. So basically, whenever you are designing, yes, it has to be written in this format itself. Okay. First, you will say that yes, what type of class is linked with what type of class, what are two base classes, okay? Then what is a derived class kind of thing, okay? That way, like it will be easier for you to like design a class. So hence this is like base class one, okay? And hence this is like a base class two, base class two, and we have got derived class, okay, derived class from B1 and B2. So why B1 and B2 as base class 1 and base class 2? That way I am writing it. Derived from base class 1 and base class 2, right? So that way it will be easier for us to now define it. Okay. Now I am defining the class employee. Okay. So what the class employee will be having, definitely the members of the class. So hence now, like if I am saying it as protected, so as we are inheriting certain properties of employee in manager, so hence either it has to be public or either it has to be like protected. So public we will try to avoid, as I was telling you earlier also, but right now we will go ahead with the protected members. So hence it will be like int EMP code or employee ID. Okay. So anything, it could be employee ID or employee code. Okay. We have got care name. Okay. So which is around 20 bytes or 200 bytes, whatever you wish to have it. Okay. Then we have float salary, which is applicable to all of the employees. Okay. After this, definitely we need to have what? The methods. Okay. I'm just taking only few of the things so that it will be easier for us to code in. And do we want to have a constructor? If you want, you can have a constructor in this way, like employee. Okay. So it is a default constructor, I can say. So I don't want to have anything, or suppose say if I want to have anything, I can write it within those braces. And suppose say I want to create a parameterized constructor, so I can write it in this way, employee. Okay. So here I'll be specifying the employee code. Okay. So that will be int ID. Okay. Comma char star n, okay, for name, okay, the float as s for salary, okay. So that way I am specifying the parameters for the employee, and now like emp code is equal to id, I can say, comma, uh, sorry, semicolon, so strcpy, okay, with the name, comma, n, okay. So I'll write it in a two lines so that it will be good enough. And salary be equal to yes, okay. So that way I'll be writing the employee constructor. Next, if I want to print certain values of uh, the parameters which have been input, so I can use like print the employees kind of thing. I can use another method to input to print the values of the EMP code name and salary, or the attributes of employee class. So I can use it as print EMP. Okay, print EMP. I can use it in this way. So for the same, I'll be writing cout. Okay, then the ID equal to, you can say, EMP ID or EMP code. Yeah, the code cout EMP name. I can say name. Okay, cout slash n and EMP salary. Okay, employee salary equal to sorry. Okay. So print salary or print employee, the code is done. So that ends our first class, that is the base class. Now we shall be designing the class officer. Okay. Of course, for a class officer, as I was telling you earlier, he can have a DNS allowance and he can have a HRA. So in that case, I'll be defining again it as a protected members. So hence I'll be taking float as PA and HRA, and I will be defining some methods for the same methods. So if I want again, like for the class officer, I can have the constructors, right? So I can say officer, okay. If for a default constructor, if I want to do it, yes, I'll be doing it. Otherwise, for a parameterized constructor, definitely I'll go ahead with the different methodology. Yeah. So officer, okay, with suppose say like input is float, DNS allowance is D, and float HRA for H. Okay. So here I can say PA equal to D, okay, colon HRA, okay, equal to H. Okay. So that way I'll be writing a parameterized constructor. So now after parameterized constructor, suppose say I want to print those DA and HRA. So I can again use methods or the interfaces now. So void, sorry, I have to write it over here as void, okay, void and print is that officer, okay, print officer, okay, officer of I can say, okay, print officer and of course again here the same thing, and you are saying DA is equal to with the DA part Cout slash N, and we have a HRA allowances, HRA. So that is the job of print officer kind of thing. So hence that is it. I'll be completing the class B, okay, or base class 2, right? So this is the only two things I'll be doing it in classes of base class 1 and base class 2. Now I shall be defining the class manager, okay? So wherein I'm just inheriting the properties of DA, HRA, I'll be inheriting what again? Here employee ID or employee code, salary, name. These are all are inherited in class manager. Okay. But how will I use all those methods or all of those values in class manager? That is an important task now. Okay. So class manager, suppose say I want to define it. Okay. Class manager is a specific thing. Manager is specific. Workers are specific. Like we have certain designations. So manager will be enjoying certain his own privileges. The workers or the designations which are below to the manager, they will be enjoying their own what do you say, the privileges, right? So that kind of hierarchical we need to have it, and what kind of the privileges are presented to a manager, what kind of privileges are presented to a common worker, okay? So those things we have to see it. But the privileges which are meant for managers only, those will be only private to him, not to be inherited to any other one. So hence I have to define certain members now who are only private to a manager. So that cannot be inherited. That cannot be inherited. Now, for example, what I'll do is I'll define now a private member, so that now whenever like class manager would be inherited, these members or the attributes of class manager should not be inherited in a way. Okay. So suppose say for example, I can say float TA and GSAL, gross sal, is enjoyable only by the manager. So hence he will be actually enjoying those two things. Okay. So hence it is, suppose say from class manager we are deriving again to class, suppose say D kind of thing. So D will not be inheriting the properties of TA and GSAL. So that is why it has been made private to the member. Okay. So that is why we are making it as private. So we have to think before itself, before we code in, we have to think what are all will be private to the manager, what are all will be private to the certain other classes. Okay. So now I have made a TA and GSAL as private to the members. Okay. Now I'll be doing what? I'll be accessing some methods, or I'll be giving the methods or interfaces to the outside world. So of course, as we have done it for the other classes, we can have the constructors defined over here. So manager, so default constructor, okay, manager, okay. And now suppose say for a manager, I want to define something as a default parameterized constructor. I can do it. So what it will be? So I can have it as int, sorry, int c, okay, and comma char star, okay, n for a name, okay, and I can have float d for DNS allowance, right? And sorry, float s, I'll do it. So first we'll complete the class employee, okay. Then we have float d for DNS allowance, and I have float h for HRA. So these are the properties of like class manager, okay. And what I can do is, so suppose say I want to initialize it for class A and class B. So how I can do the initialization? Yes, of course, there is a colon operator. So after this, if you have a colon, and now from class manager, I want to pass the parameters to the class B, okay, as like the constructor, right? How I can do? Yes, using this colon operator. Now if I say employee, hello, employee, and now if I'm passing C comma N comma S, right? So these will go as a value towards class employee as a parameterized constructor, right? And hence for the officer also, like if I want to pass the DNS allowance and the HRA also, yes, using a comma operator, I can pass from manager to what? The class B also, that is nothing but officer. So hence officer, okay. So officer, and I'll be passing what? D comma H. So that way it is possible. So hence I'll not be doing anything. So the initialization part is done there itself. So hence it is done with that. Okay. So parameterized construction is done. So after this, suppose say I want to print the values of like now class manager, what are all the values or methods if I'm using it, right? So in the way I can now write that method. So in this case, so I'll be writing print manager, print manager kind of thing. So I can use like in this way. So this is a public interface method. I'll be giving it to the manager. So in public interface method, suppose say initially itself I want to print the employee ID, employee name, and all those blah 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 things which we have used in class A or base class B1. So that I'll be calling it now itself, here itself in class manager. Suppose I can access it as it is a public member, I can access it. So hence it will be like print emp, okay. So this print emp I want to call it over here itself. So it will be print emp, okay. So I'll be calling it after setting all the values. Next, suppose say I want to call even the print what off, that is nothing but print officer also, I can call it, okay. So print off, okay. So that way like I'll be calling the officer values also to be printed. So after then I can say cout, okay. And similarly I want to print the values of TA, which is private to the class manager, okay. And So TA, I'll be writing it as, and C out, okay, dash in. Now, before like calculating gross salary, I need to calculate the gross salary, right? So what I'll do is GSAL is equal to, I'll say DNS allowance plus HRA plus what you say, the TA plus salary. So these things I'll be calculating it and I will be printing it out. See out, okay, gross salary, okay, so equal to G cell, okay. So hence this prints everything. So after this, if I want to have an else statement, I can have it as cell. Sorry. So after this, I just want to close the print manager, okay. That's it, I guess. So hence we have completed the class.
You are not in our initialized TA.
How is it? Oh, yeah. So TA has to be done. Oh, sorry. Just a sec. I have just made a scroll statement. So TA also has to be calculated. So not initialized. Like I have to calculate the TA. Yeah. So TA I'll be calculating it. So TA is definitely calculated as 10% of the salary. So hence it will be 0.10 multiplied by salary. Okay. So that way, like I'll be calculating the salary, right? So then the same thing would be printed out. So thanks for pointing out, Jain. Yeah. So now that's it. We are done with the 90% of the coding. What is left out is only the driver part. So the driver part now I'll be writing it out. So hence now it will be like int main. Okay. So you can see the manager is like a derived class from what? Both base classes of B1 and B2, right? So here I can say now uh, I can get the count of managers as well. How many managers are there? If there are multiple managers, I can go with the multiple managers. Okay, so for the same, what I'll do is I want to maintain a count, okay, and or I can say the number of managers, okay, and for iteration I'll be taking it as I, okay, then I'll be using what I'll be using a pointer to the manager now. So manager, okay, so and pointer to the manager it would be like M, and now I'll ask the user to input how many managers he want to have it, okay. So enter the number of managers, okay. That way like he will be entering the manager count. So C in, okay, I can say count. So definitely he will be having that managers. So based on this manager itself, like I want to create the array of objects of manager. So usually I already told you how dynamically we can create the manager, isn't it? By using the new operator. So hence now like M is equal to Now, because M is just a pointer which is pointing to what data type? Manager data type. So manager is a class now, like it is pointing to the that class. We have to create multiple object of this class manager. But M is just a pointer which can just point to or which can hold an address of another variable. Now I need to create dynamically or allocate memory for managers so that now M will be pointing to the base address of that manager, right? So in that case, it will be like new, okay? I'm using a new instead of malloc and all. In C++, we will be using new. So hence, what will be its type? So manager, right? And hence with the count, okay? So this is the best way of creating a like the number of managers or the number of objects you want to have it of that type, okay? So now I have created those many number of managers object. Now I will start getting the values, okay, and sending them back to the particular objects and printing the result. So now I'll be using a for I is equal to 0, okay, I is less than count, okay, and I plus plus. So this is the iteration I'll be doing it. So now see out, okay, now I need to say enter the information of employee, okay, enter the information of the employee for, okay, the, the information of, sorry, it will be now like I plus 1. So in a way it will be telling you that yes, enter the information of employee 1, right? So that way it will be and well, okay. Now I am writing the now I need to input the code, name, and salary, DNS allowance, okay, and HRA. These all to be included now. So I can use those thing declared over here. So I can declare it over here, or else in a looping statement I can declare it. So I can make utilization of anything. So what I'll do is I'll be declaring it over here itself, okay, or wherever it is necessary. Let us see, okay, because at times we need a character, at times we need a float, at times we need a, okay, int. So that way, like it will be easier for us. Now, like I'll say out slash in, enter the employee, the ID. Okay, employee ID, in, and for this, right, employee ID, I can have before in, say int C, right? I can say it as ID of the employee. Okay, in ID. After that, name. Okay, see out the name by say char n b c in, sorry. Yeah. Similarly, we have C out, enter salary, float, yes, okay, C in, yes, out, DNS allowance, of course, this is also like a float, B, okay, C in, D, C out again, or enter HRA, and float, we have float HRA for H, okay, and C in, and say it is H, okay. Now, these are all the information I have got it as an individual thing, right? So these things are to be passed for the manager, okay, as a parameterized constructor. So how that will be? Yes, of course, it is like manager of this I is equal to, okay, manager, manager, okay, and I can have what? The parameter passed. So I'm creating and I'm now passing a parameters of that object. So that can be used with an assignment operator to a particular object. Okay. So object with equal to the name of the class with the parameter passed. So hence it will create an object with that values, with that values. So hence I'll be passing this ID, okay, and name, and I'll be passing what, the salary, okay, and I'll be passing what, DNS allowance and HRA. So these things are passed as a parameterized constructor for m of I, so m of 0. So hence this will go and it will be like a parameter passing. So after then in managers class we have already seen the split of the values, isn't it? From manager it will go to what, employee data, and it will again split into the which class, officers class. That DNS allowance and the HRA will go in the officers class. So hence the values are copied to the other class members. So that is it, guys. So hence this will create one object. So I'll be closing the looping statement. Now after the values are being done, so what I need to do? Yes, of course, I just need to print those values, isn't it? So hence what I'll be doing is for I equal to 0, I is less than again count, okay, and hence I plus plus, I need to print all the values which are been with the managers, right? So C out, I can say slash n, okay, with the details. If I want to print it in a particular format, yes, you can use it. Out slash n, okay. Your information I can say it as p features information, okay, closing it. see out. I want to enter it in this way. Yeah, now each values I'll be printing it. So the object is m of I. So what I need to do? Yeah. So print MANG. So I hope this is what it is there in the class. Okay. Print MANG. Print MANG. Yeah. So hence this completes code with return 0 for the main, closing the main. Hence write this. So hope this completes our code with the multiple inheritance. And what I'll do is I'll compile this code on the other platform. So, okay. Multiple CN. So G++ multiple inheritance.cpp. So what are those? Yes, there is a comma missing in line number 39. Okay. So let's see that part. 39. So it will directly go for the 39 line number. Semicolon missing. We'll compile it once again. Yeah. So C string I need to include. Yes, I'll be including it. Print blank version. Okay. It should be wide. So hence it has compiled successfully. Yeah. So I'll be now executing that a.out. So enter the number of managers. Suppose say 3 managers I'm giving the thing. So enter the employee ID. So it is 1010. Okay. Name as like you can say Rohit. Okay. Salary as 35,000 and DNS allowance would be like around 1,000. HRA is again 10,000. Okay. So now it is asking for the employee 2, right? So employee ID is 1011. Okay. Employee name is Priya. Yeah. I hope I have used the correct spelling. Okay. Priya. 40K as the salary. Now the DNS allowance again, like it would be like 1200, for example, and again it would be like 10,000, for example. HRA employee 3 1012. Okay, and the name of the employee. Okay, it is okay. Salary is 35K. Dearness allowance is 3,000 and HRA would be 30K. it is per month actually. I have missed that one. 3,500, whatever it is. So the calculation will depend on the same thing. Hence, you can see each manager's information. First manager's information, okay, employee name, salary, HRA, DA, everything. Gross salary is this part. And the second manager's information, Shreya, so with this HRA, TA and all, so the gross salary is calculated accordingly. And the third manager's information, that is with the employee ID, the name, salary and the gross salary calculated accordingly. Right? So this is how like you are getting the information of an employee, creating the employee's information dynamically, right? So this is how you are doing it. So hope you have got the clear picture of how you are making utilization of what? Multiple inheritance. So the values of what? Employee attributes are taken into the manager, and of course even with the attributes of officer are taken in manager and to do some calculation part. Of course for DA and HRA we need it. So you can see here, so salary we are getting it from what? Class, base class 1, right? And gross salary, how to calculate the gross salary of manager, that is class C, that is used using what? Of course, salary, which is we are getting it from the base salary, and we are calculating that base salary is TA, that we are utilizing it in this salary. And HRA and DA we are getting it from whom? Class B, correct na? So hence you are getting the values from class A, class B to get a value accordingly, and then print those gross salary accordingly. So this is how basically you are utilizing a multiple inheritance. So if you have any doubt on this, please ask me. Yes, guys, if you have any doubts, please ask me.
Sir,
So today we have seen single inheritance, multiple inheritance. Now we are going to see multi-level inheritance. Okay. So what that multi-level inheritance will give you is like from class A, we are inheriting the properties or the attributes of class A to class B. Again from class B, like we are inheriting the properties of class B and A to class C. Okay. So it all depends on like how we are accessing the class A attributes to class C as well. But of course, from class B, we are inheriting the properties of class C. So we are not so sure like at right now, like whether we are totally inheriting the properties of class A to class C or not. We are not so sure like from B we are accessing the C or not. So it can be anything. It can be anything. Suppose say now like if I want to create an object of class C and I want to now input the values or get the values of class A, that means set the values of class A and class B, then of course the attributes should be inherited. The attribute should be inherited. So that is why we have to see how we have to design a class for the same, for a multi-level inheritance. Okay. So let us see that part right now with the code. Okay. So I'll be sharing my Linux box accordingly. So in this, like, yeah, so I can say multi LVL level dot CPP. Okay.
sir, we cannot see the screen.
Okay. So I have now shared across the Linux box to you. So it is a multi-lvel.c++. So in this program, now we will see the multi-level, like from class A, how we are inheriting certain attributes to class B, and from class B, how we are inheriting to class C. Now, I want to now do a case study on something like case study on the students' marks kind of thing. Okay. So as we have seen in our earlier examples, right? So I'll be creating a students class, that is a base class again, wherein I'll be having like I'll be having the student's ID and name. Okay. So in that case, from that, like I'll be having another class, so wherein I'll be taking marks of certain subject. Okay. And actually that marks are derived, that class B, now like I'll call this as students marks or something like that. So that I will derive it from what? The main class, that is nothing but students class. Next, I want to have another class called as result, okay, or a student result kind of thing, wherein I will derive it from whom? Now the class B. Who is class B now? Like students marks kind of thing. Okay, so I want to get it derived from student marks. So what the result will give us? Yes, the result will give us a percentage calculated out of those subject and all. Okay. So that way, like we will see how the classes can be derived and how the hierarchy of the classes are achieved. Okay. So let us see that part now. So for the same, yes, of course, we have to include now the header file. Okay. Next, if I want to use certain printf statement or something which is related to the header file, which is with the stdio.h file, that I can use it. Otherwise, directly I can use namespace. Okay. Ready. And now I'll be defining the class student. Okay. So class student. Okay. So in this, as I was telling you, I'll be getting a roll number or the ID of the student. Okay. So as I can say, it is roll number. Okay. And we have got his name. Okay. Uh, so these will become what? Private to the class, isn't it? So hence, even if I want to define a class accordingly, I can define a class accordingly. To define the access specifier as private. So anyway, these by default are private. You can define it in that way. Otherwise, explicitly you can define it so that it is in a readable format. So public. Now I want to get data of roll number, name kind of thing. So void get details. Okay. So get details kind of thing. So in this, you can say cout in roll number in roll number, and again cout of what? Enter name. Okay. So here we are getting the details of the student. Okay. Next, if I want to like print the details of the student, I can get it in that way. So word display. Okay. So display details or his details kind of thing. Okay. Then I have got see out. Then I want to decorate it. I can decorate it. See out. Then details. I can see details. And have okay. So these are some of the details of the student. Now I'll complete this class. Okay. So after this, if I now want to declare another class, now inheriting from students. So as I was telling you, it will be like class student marks kind of thing. So I can say std marks. Okay. So std marks. So here I'll be getting the student marks. Again, it is derived from whom? Like the student details. So, but here, yes, how do I inherit that student's class towards the student marks is like with which kind of mode of inheritance? It is public mode, isn't it? So, public and std student. Okay. That way now I'll be defining a class. And here definitely as it is related to marks, so I'll be taking the marks kind of thing. So for example, so marks whether I want to inherit further, okay, or like whatever it is, so either it should be protected or public. So that way I have to see it. In that case, what I'll do is I can make it protected or public. So in the last example, I have shown you even if it is protected, you can inherit it. Now even as it is a public inheritance, so I can even show you how the properties or the attributes of this student's marks, right? STD marks can be inherited. Of course, as it is a public, it can be inherited. So suppose say like I have subject S1, okay, comma S2, comma S3, comma S4, comma S5, comma and S6. So 6 subjects are there, okay. I have to have a percentile also, like float per, I can say percentile. I want to define now the interfaces. Okay, so word I can say get marks. Okay, so word get marks. That case, I can ask P out dash enter marks. for subject 1, okay. C in S1, okay. So this I'm going to repeat for multiple times, so I'll count these two lines. Yeah, so hence we have enter the marks of subject 2, subject 3, subject 4, subject 5, subject 6. Similarly, I need to change it to S2, S3, S4, and 6. Okay, so here I have got accordingly all the subject marks. So get marks is done for me. I'll be closing this, and suppose say if I want to display the marks, right, I can do that even. So I can say void display marks kind of thing. Display marks, get marks, display marks is done. So before like displaying the marks for which student, if I want to uh, mention it, like I can use the display details of students, right? So I can use that functionality over here. So this functionality, what is that? Display details, right? I will be printing now DISP details first, okay? So after printing this display details, then I'll be printing the marks, okay? So cout fashion, okay, marks of subject 1 is S1. So I'll be going to repeat again the same stuff. So I'll be yanking, printing 6 times, okay? Changing this to 2, replace it with 3, 4, 5, and 6. Similarly, 2, 3, 5, and 6, okay? So display marks is done. So hence we can end up our class as well. End up my class, get marks kind of stuff. So now, and another class. So class A is done, class B is done, now class C. Okay. So now in this class, as I was telling you that I need to print the result, isn't it? So in that way, I'll be defining a class std result, result, student result, student result. So for student result, I have to inherit from whom? I have to inherit from class B, isn't it? So in that way, it will be from whom now? Class STD marks, yes or no? So again, the mode of inheritance would be like public and STD marks. Okay. So I'm inheriting from student marks. So here, what all the function I can include? Yes, I'll be now calculating the percentage, okay, of all the marks scored. Okay. So in that case, I can say I'll just want to display, or I want to give only the result of it. So hence I can say void calculate calc. Okay. Okay, void calculate kind of thing. So in this, what I'm calculating is definitely the percentile. So directly you can see that I'm using a percentile method. So percentile is defined as public in class B, that is student marks. So hence I'll be using it directly. So hence that is per. So then I'm using it per, and I can calculate S1 plus S2 plus S3 plus, sorry, S4, 5 plus S6. Okay, so that is divided by 6 dot. So hence the percentile is calculated. We can print that result as the percentile. Total percentage is equal to, I can say, per percentile scored. So that's completes our calculate part. Even I can end up our class declaration also. So the class declaration is done. Write this thing. Now what I need to do is write the driver code accordingly and print the same thing. Okay. So what I'll do is int main. Okay. Then I have to get std result. Okay. Std result. I'll say it as capital S, so that student result is represented with S as an object of that. Okay. Again, for this, I can have multiple students. You have already seen in the previous example how to get the multiple students, correct? So you can get that thing. So you can create either using a dynamic allocation, or else you can just scan and print it. Okay, scan and print it. For that, I can say like cout, okay, dash in the students. Okay. Here, if I say in the count comma I, okay, C in count, okay. I can say a looping statement for I is equal to 0 is less than count, okay, plus within this can say S dot. Now I need to get the data. So for to get the data, what we have used, so here I have to see the get the data, get details kind of thing. So enter the details. So roll number and name I will get it. So get details. After then I can ask for get marks. Okay. So get details and get marks. So after this I can say get details. Okay. So then I can say s dot get marks. Okay. And yes, of course, after getting a marks, what is your other part is like display the result. Yes or no? So get marks is doing what? So getting all the marks. Okay. And if I want to display the marks, yes, of course, you can display the marks accordingly and then get the percentile calculated. So hence you can see over the next one, it would be like get marks. After get marks, I can say s dot display marks. I have used the same this disp marks. Yeah, display marks. So display marks will display details of the student and the marks code. And now I'll be doing a calculation, right? So after this display marks, yes, of course, I need to say s dot calc. Okay, calculate the percentile and print the same thing, right? So this I'll be doing it for multiple student with the same student repetitive with the same object replaced with the other. Okay, so I can get it in an array of what do you say the objects, but here I want to do it like a replacement of the same. Okay, so here I'll be closing this. Yeah, so the main is closed. So let me compile this code back. So I'll be using another terminal for the same. So G++, I can say multi label.c++. So get details, it is finding, did you mean get details? Yeah, the spelling mistake. So we will get details. Okay. So hence it is compiled successfully. So I'll write an a dot out. Now it is asking the enter the number of student, like suppose say 3 student I have entered. So roll number 1010, name, yes, I can say take Mithula's name and I can take Mahima's name. Mithula. Marks code, like it will be 45, 7, 66, 78. Randomly I'm taking it. B2, B8. So hence the total percentile calculated, you can see it, it has been printing immediately. But this you can do it later on also, like yes, okay. So enter the roll number of the second student, it will be 011, okay. The name of the student, print, okay. The subject sports, 77, 88, 66, 99, 85, 86. So accordingly, you can see the second student's result in a similar way, right? 1012, and name of the student, fish, okay? Subject 1, 88, 87, 6, 4, 83. So hence it is 85.5. So likewise, the student details are displayed, right? So otherwise also like you can get the student marks Okay, in creating with the dynamic creation also you can do it with the with what the object creation. Suppose say how do you do? Yes star, and of course after this what you need to do? Yes is equal to new, okay, and std result, okay, and here you need to specify the count, isn't it? So count you can specify over here. So those many number of elements would be created, or those many number of count would be created, isn't it or not? So hence you are able to create it, and then later on you can delete it. So at the end of the result you can even delete it. So I can say here delete with that way you can delete. And here of course you have to change it with the s of I, get marks, get details, s of I. Okay, display we can do it bit later on, right? Getting the result, and after that again for loop you can use it equal to 0, I is less than count, okay, I plus plus, s of I dot display details, okay, so that function, and s of I dot PALC, two functions I need to call it. So that way like it will get the details and calculate it, correct? Hence this is how you can do it with the new. For I think yeah, we are done with this. Okay. In that case, I'll be recompiling this back. Dot of into the number of student is like I just want to test it. So number of student is 1, roll number, name, subject 1 score, so absolutely correct. So hence you can see the student details I have been presenting with the details of the student, and then the total percentage is being done. So but here I have, I think we have missed with the part that is nothing but display details kind of thing. Display details it is, yeah, display details is correct. Oh, display marks. So display marks I should have, not display details, it is display marks. Display. So display marks will display the details as well as marks, correct? No? Hence I'll recompile this back and roll number, subject 1, so you can get the student details in this fashion. You can see after the name all the student details and then the total percentage calculated. So that way, like, yes, of course you are able to get all the details of the student. So now I have done it with the dynamic programming part, like I have actually allocated the student and then allocated the memory space for the student, and then we have deleted the memory allocated or free up the memory using a delete functionality. Okay, so both the ways I have shown across to you. So if you have any doubt, please ask me on the same. So as you can see from class student, we have got some private members of the class student. Okay, so that I don't want to inherit to what? The class B, correct now? So hence those will become like a property which are being only used in student. So hence I will be getting the name and all printed at there itself. That is why I have used display details, okay, over here itself. Okay, so name and roll number of the student are displayed with the public method, that is display details. Okay, so now you can see that in student marks which are being inherited with student class. So here I cannot get name and roll number of the student, but what I can get is only the marks. So purely this class is used to calculate or get the marks and display the marks of any student. It can be of any student. That is why the speciality of this one you can see. So student marks is not actually meant for what? A student one, correct na? So for a particular student, it is not for a particular student. It is generic. It is generic. So the student marks can be utilized for any other purpose. So hence, when you inherit the properties of student to student marks, so the name and the roll number are not inherited. Name and role are not inherited. So instead, what we are inheriting? The method. So here we are getting the marks. Once the marks is set, what we are doing? Just calling the display details, wherein I'm just printing what? The name of the student, okay, and the roll number of the student in what? Using the class B, okay, that is the second class or student marks class. So there I'll be calling the method. That method will access the name and roll number within that class and will be able to print it. That's it. So hence the use of private members, you can see it. So while designing itself, you have to see how actually the marks are, or how actually the attributes are shared across the different classes. Okay, so the designing is very important, guys. That is what I'm telling you. Yes, while in inheritance, the designing is very important. So in display marks, I'll be displaying the details of name and roll number using this call, and after that we can directly call the marks of each subject. And then if I want to calculate now the percentile of the same, I can get it. So as you know that percentile is public, hence it is inherited with the public inheritance mode itself, and I can print it directly. I can print it directly. Even if it is protected also, definitely we would have been inherited the variable per or the member of student marks. So hence this is the use of like multiple level inheritance, multi-level inheritance. Okay. So if you have any doubt, please ask me now itself. Hope this is clearer for you guys. The next section would be the hybrid inheritance or multi-path inheritance. What actually that means? Yes, of course, from class A, okay, to class D, how the properties are inherited of class A to class D. So either it could be like through D or either it could be like through C, right? So the properties of A will be inherited to D through either the path A to B and then D, or either from A to C and then D. So both the ways it is possible. So that is why it is called as multipath, or else why it is also called as hybrid inheritance. So why it is called as hybrid inheritance? From class A, you are inheriting two child classes, that is nothing but B and C. Okay. So from B and C, which has got its own attributes, right? Their own attributes respectively. B has got its own attributes separately. C will be having its own attributes separately. From B and C, again you are inheriting the properties to what? D. Okay. So hence it will, B will have the properties of B, D will have the properties of C as well. D even has the properties of A. Okay. That means it can access the members of A, B and C in D. That is why it is called as hybrid inheritance. Okay. So the same way I will now represent the pictorial representation of the same in what? In a coding format. So for that I have to see a case study. So the case study is now like using like suppose say like for in multi-level inheritance we have seen the students marks, right? Now we will see if I want to design a class for a teaching and non-teaching staff. Okay. So basically in your college and all, like there will be definitely a teaching and non-teaching staffs. But teaching and non-teaching staff, they are of a subclasses of what? Main class it would be like an employee, correct na? Or a person. It can be a person or it can be an employee. So the employees can be like teaching and non-teaching staff. So that way it will have. So employee can have what? His ID and name. Okay, it is a main base class, I can say. That is nothing but A class. Class A. But now class B and C are what? Teaching and non-teaching staff. So the difference between teaching and non-teaching staff is what? Definitely a teaching staff will teach a particular subject, but non-teaching staff will belong to a particular department. Correct na? So these are the properties of what? Class B and class C separately. Yes or no? And of course, we cannot inherit the properties of C to B. You cannot inherit. We cannot inherit. So B and C are separately, as they will play individual roles. They will play individual roles. So hence B and C has got their own properties. Like suppose say teaching has what? Subject. Okay. And non-teaching staff may be depending on a particular department. So altogether, again in class D, if I want to replicate the properties of B, C and A, so this can be like in your college, you can see there is a person called as instructor in your lab, correct? Na? So he is of course a non-teaching staff, but he is handling the subject, yes or no? So in a lab, definitely, suppose say a computer instructor is there, right? He cannot go and teach any electrical or electronic students or mechanical students or civil student. He cannot teach. He is meant to be bound with a particular subject. But of course, he is not even teaching to what? A subject as a lecturer, right? He is not teaching a subject, but he is just instructing on a particular subject. Yes or no? So hence he belongs to a department, but he doesn't belong or he doesn't come under the teaching staff as well. So hence he is authenticated for only a subject. Yes or no? So hence can I take D class as an instructor now? So that way, like we will be defining a class. Okay. So this is what I have thought about a case study. Okay. So with this case study, now we will implement the hybrid inheritance. So is this fine with you guys? So shall we proceed ahead with the coding part of the same. So we shall go with the Linux boxes. Now we need to now define a class and properly define the methods and properly define the attributes of each of the classes. So it is hybrid inheritance, okay, hybrid inheritance or multipath inheritance. So HYB dot CPP, and here you can say demo of multi path or hybrid inheritance, okay. Include in H file and using space std, and we have a class now to be defined as, like, I'll define it as employee, okay. Employee class is there. For employee class we have got employee ID, right? So employee ID will be like private private. So in this private I have int emp ID, employee ID. We have got his name, okay, of an employee, and I need to have now interfaces. So the interfaces is like, now we are asking the ID and the name, okay. So hence void get emp. So in this case, cout the details are you, okay. Let's say cout enter emp id by id, c in p id, cout enter p, okay. C in with, this is what about your get emp details kind of thing. And similarly, if you want to print the details of the employee and all, yes, you can use display details. You can say print emp out live info, in, sorry, out. I need to print the ID, 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 out, employee name, name. That's it. So it will print the employee name. So hence this will end up our class A. Okay. So this is our main class or a base class, I can say. So I can define this as a base class, right? Base. Now I want to define the class B and C. Okay. So B is inheriting from class A, even C will be inheriting from class A. So otherwise what A is as means, so A is like a base class now. Now as I was telling you, I have to define another class. So that will be like a teaching and non-teaching class, right? So teaching class, we will define it now. So class, I can say EMP teach, okay? Teaching or teach, you can say, or teach, I can refer it as, and definitely that is inherited from what? Public, okay? And EPLOY employee, okay? So now I have to define employee tech, that is teaching staff, okay, as some private members I have to define it so that those are not inherited. So for example, I have I can define access specifier. So here I can say care subject name, okay, so it will be of 20 care the name of the teacher, okay, so I can define the name of the teacher over here. It will be ch teacher, or I can say t underscore, okay, so it will be of 20. You can define it in that way. So this will be like in private. To define the interface now, defining some interfaces. So now I'll ask the, so here you might be feeling that yes, I have a teacher name or the employee name also, right? So what is the difference between a teacher name and an employee name? So I'll let you know bit later what is the actually the name of the teacher, how you need to get the name of the teacher, whether I should use the same name of the employee as we have used it with the teacher name. So it can be anything. So otherwise separately also you can have it. Okay. So separately also you can have it. So in a way, right now I'll be taking another name of the teacher itself so that it will be clearer for us. It will be clearer for us. Then we will think about mixing up the things. Then we will think about the mixing of the things. So here I need to now write the method to get the details of subject and a teacher. Okay. So hence I can say get teaching details. Okay. Get teach, I can say. So for this I need to define the return type as void. So now I can ask the employee details kind of thing. I can ask directly the name of the person and everything over there, as in like with the C name, okay, or I can say the employee name, right? So here I'll be calling the functionalities which are defined in the person, okay. So that way, like I can get the details of the employee, and I can name, even I can assign the teacher's name to the name which we have got it from the, what do you say, the got it from class A. I can use it that way. So for example, I can say I'll be calling get details of whom, sorry. For example, here I'm calling this function get employee details, right? So I want to call this employee details over here. Okay. So get EMP is what the function name is, isn't it? Get EMP. Yeah. So get EMP. So get EMP, I'll be asking it. So I'll be calling get EMP function. Okay. Then I can say cout. Okay. So dash in, enter the enter subject name. I can say subject name. Okay. Here scene. I can say subject underscore name. Okay. And now, like I can ask the name of the teacher here itself, or else I can assign it. So in a way, like here, when you get that thing, so when you get EMP details, so can I use one more function to assign it to that? Yes, of course I can do that. Of course I can do that. Get the name of the employee, that I can do it, and return it from the employee class and assign it to the teacher's name. That way I can do it. So for example, I can say here, so char star, okay, get name, okay. So get name, I can write it over here. So I can say in return what? Name. That's it. Return name. So it will be returning a name from the employee table or employee database. So here I can assign it directly. What I can do is str cpy, okay, and t underscore name, comma, get name, I say get name, yeah, get name, I'm getting it from that. So t name is associated with now like employee, teaching staff of the employee, okay. And now if I want to print the details now, yes, of the employee table or teaching staff, so display, okay, employee teach, okay, employee teach. For that, I can say now I need to display the details. So in a way, what I can say is I can call this function, yes or no, to the employee name and all, print emp, name, ID and everything. Hence, I can call this name, print emp, okay. So print emp, I'll be calling it wherein the name of the employee and the ID are printed. So cout, I can get it as subject, okay, subject as subject underscore name, okay, and even you can display the teacher's name as well. So either way it is okay. So either way it is okay. So even I can say cout here, if it is the same name, yeah, of course I'll be displaying the same thing. You can say teacher name, So here I can give it as T underscore. Okay. So that way I'll be completing the print details of employee with the teaching staff. I'll be ending my class. Now the two classes are now only one class is created of what do you say, the child class from the parent class. Another child class I have to create from the parent class again, right? So class now like non-teaching, right? So non-EMP I have defined over here. EMP teach, non-EMP teach. Okay, EMP teach. Okay, so that way I am defining a class now. So it will be care department DEPT underscore name is with the private declaration method. Now what will be the method? Void enter the name of the department I can ask. So enter the details I can say. For that get non-EMP I can say. So this I can say cout enter the department name and the CL underscore. Okay.
Non-employee teacher is inherited from employee class.
Yes, 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 of course. I have to just write here. It is again public from whom? Employee. Yeah. Next is we have to, if we want to display, yes, again it will be void display that way like I'll be cout department name. Okay. So that way I'm just displaying the department name. So this completes a non-teaching staff I can say. So non-teaching staff is done. Now I have to define another class called as D. Okay. So that will be a mix of both teaching and not teaching staff. Okay. So I'll be in a way I'll be inheriting the properties of B and C to class D now. Okay. So that way it is a hybrid inheritance. So that will be, I will be calling it as an instructor, right? So as I was calling it as instructor, okay? So instructor, and it would be inherited from whom? So public, in the inheritance mode is public. So it will be inherited from non-EMP, teach, comma, and it will be inherited from public, was that class name?
EMP teach. EMP teach.
EMP. So that way I'm defining a class now. So now instructor is inherited from non-EMP teach and EMP teach. So it will be having the properties of both non-EMP teach and EMP teach. Now in this, I just directly want to define a method. Okay. So what will be that method? To accept the details of the employee. Okay. So to accept the details of the employee, where I can get it from? So it will be from what? The teaching staff. So he can get the both the functionalities of teacher as well as like from the non-teaching staff, right? So he can now get the name. We are supposed to get a name, right? So hence I'll be getting the name from the same. So that is nothing but void, and now say input or get instructor details. Okay, instructor details. So in this, definitely I'll be calling what? To get the details of the employee. Definitely he belongs to both teaching as well as non-teaching, right? So that way I'll be calling it as. So in that case, what the functionality I need to call for a teaching? Get teach. So get teach, I'll be calling it over here. So it will be get teach. Okay. And then so get teach, he will be getting what all? Employee, that means employee ID and everything. Subject also he will be getting, and the name of the teacher is assigned to the T name. That is fine. And then in non-teaching, he need to even get what? The department name associated. So hence he has to get non-EMP. Okay. So that way he has to get it. Get yeah, get non-EMP. So both I will be calling it for the instructor now. So for the instructor, so he can have both teach and non-teach details attached to him now. So hence I am attaching both the functionalities to an instructor. Now if I want to print the details of the instructor, okay, I can say display and yes, okay, details, display instructor details. Now if I want to print the details, so what all I can use? Of course, to print with the teacher's detail, I have used display EMP teach. So I'll be using display EMP teach over here. Okay. So display EMP teach. Okay. So this is one. And next is with the display non EMP teach, because department name also has to be displayed. So display, just copy it rather than see if this is the correct or not. Non-E teach. Hence, this covers the display details of the instructor. So I'll be closing the class now. So this is done. If you have any doubts within the instructor class, you can ask me. So what I have done in get instructor details, I have utilized teaching staff details and non-teaching staff details, both at a time, right? So first I'll be getting the name of the employee and the subject. Okay, I'll also get from non-teaching staff the department name, and the same thing I'm printing it, right? So the same thing I'm printing it. But while printing, you can see, or while getting also, you can see get teach or display teach. What I'm getting it? So what I'm getting in get teach. So while I'm doing a get teach, so here you can see I'm getting even the employee record also, correct? Na? Wherein the employee ID and his name are, we are getting it. Yes or no? So that way, like I'll be getting the employee name and everything done with the class A. So I have, in a way, from class D, I'm getting even the class A's functionalities. Okay, class A's functionalities. So that is why this is called as hybrid inheritance. Now I just need to write a driver code accordingly. If you have any doubts within this, please ask me now itself so that it is clearer for you. So int main, okay. Then I can say now I want to get the uh, object of the instructor. So I can say the class is instructor here. Instructor, and I can get with the pointer, or I can say inst, right? So I have created an object which is pointing to, or I have created a pointer which is pointing to the data type called as instructor now. So I can get multiple instructors of the same, right? So in a way, I can say int count, comma I, okay? So I can now ask the user to input the number of employees, okay? Enter the number of instructors. So now I'm calculating or getting only the details of the instructor, not the other employees. I can get it if you wish. That is the thing. So cin, okay. Okay. Then I can say now inst. Now we'll point to the array of instructors. So it will be inst instructor with array of instructor as like count. So it will allocate that chunk of memory using the new operator. Now using an iteration, okay, I is equal to 0 is less than count plus plus, okay. I will be getting the details now. So it will be inst of I, okay, inst of I dot. So what is the get thing? Get inst details. Get inst details. Get inst details. The correct one. Get inst details. Display inst details. Okay. Get inst details. So this gets the name of the employee and everything. And similarly, now if I want to display it, okay, so how I can do it? Yes, using a same for loop method is equal to 0 count, okay, I plus plus, so inst of I, okay, dot display inst details. Inst details. Okay, so I'm calling the display inst details of each. Return 0, closing the main. So this is your number of lines are like 116. Okay, so hence now we shall compile the same program. We will see if there are any other errors. Okay, E++, hybrid inheritance. Okay, I have used a string copy. I need to include the string copy. So any other? Okay, successfully compiled. So I'll write a dot out. So enter the number of instructor. I'll write with the one instructor, employee ID. Okay, employee name. Okay, subject. Now, like I can say IT. Okay, department name. Okay, computer science. Okay. So yes, of course, it is very successful. So employee ID, name, subject, teacher's name is Jane, department name is computer science. Perfect thing it has displayed. So hence this code is perfect. Okay. So this is the employee info, or you can say it is an instructor's info. You can name it accordingly. Okay. So if you have any doubts, please ask me on the same. Yes, guys, if you have any doubts, you can ask me. So what I have done it basically is I have created a class called as employee. I want to get employee ID and name. Okay. So in a way, like I will just go ahead with the representation with the paint. Okay. So here, instead of going with the representation of a paint, can I do it with the representation of the name? Yeah. So what I have done is, of course, employee is our main class, right? From the main class, we have created subclasses, right? Is it? So here is your main class called as EMP. From this EMP, what we have created teaching, and here teach, and here we have created what? An instructor. Okay, INST. Okay, so here in a way employee will have what all attributes as a private? His name and employee ID, isn't it? So hence it will be like name and attributes. Just a sec, guys. So as we know that employee will have what all things? He has got so he has got two things. One is replace this one. So we have got EMP. Yeah, so here we have got employee, okay, and we have got teaching, okay, and we have got teaching. So in employee, what all the parameters I'll be taking in? I'll be taking the ID and name, right now. And in teaching, what are all the attributes I'm taking in? So the name, okay, plus what? The subject, correct now? And in non-teaching, what all I'll be taking? Yes, guys, can you tell me in non-teaching what all will be taking? So the department name, right? So only the department name I'll be taking in. So the department name is can be associated with the ID and name, okay, and as well as with the subject now for our instructor, correct now? So but a non-teaching staff definitely will have only what? A department name, correct? And he will be having ID and name. Suppose say like some office boys are there, right? So the office boys are associated with only the department where they are associated with. Correct, no? So each department will have their own office boys. Of course, they will be having their own name and ID. So department name and ID, they are associated, but they cannot be associated with the subject. Correct, no? So non-teaching staff. So hence now an instructor, so INST is one instructor who can have what all? ID he can have, correct, no? He can have an ID, he can have what? Name, okay? He can have what all? Subject, okay? He can have a department name. So these are all four things an instructor has got, right? So definitely if I have to redefine everything, so it will be again a repetitive use of the variables, correct, no? So repetitive use of the variables. So instead, can I use the variables which are the parameters which are with the employee, which are with the teaching, and which are with the non-teaching staff? Can I use it? Yes, of course. So if I want to use EMP ID name, okay, EMP ID and name, so how I can get it? So of course, this teaching staff has been migrated from whom? Employee, correct, no? So I can get the ID and name either from teaching or non-teaching. Yes or no? Correct? So hence I can choose a path. Saying that teaching can be migrated from EMP. From there, I'll be getting the ID and name to the instructor. Correct, na? Migrated in the sense like I will be getting the IDs and name. Correct, right? So hence teacher also will get ID and name instead, because these are again what? Inherited from employee, because teacher also should have his own name and ID. Correct? So hence only extra thing what he is having is a subject. Extra thing only what he is having as a subject. So hence this instructor is associated with a teacher. So he will be choosing this path or this path. Both the way he will be getting an ID and name. Now these two things are done with us. Okay. Now what is left? Subject and department name. So hence to get a subject, if he has chosen teaching as a path, so definitely he will be copied. This will be copied. So the attribute will be inherited to instructor as well. So hence even this part is done. Correct, na? Now what is left? Department name. So if department name is left, so he has to even get the name from the non-teaching staff, right? So if he wants to get a department name, right? So in a way, how it will be? So he has to even migrate the properties of what? The non-teaching staff as well, isn't it? So he has to get a name from, or the department name from non-teaching staff as well. Correct, right? So hence, definitely he will be getting the attributes migrated or inherited. See, I'm using the word called as migrated or inherited side by side. Why? Because of, like, in future you might see the words called as migration or words called as inheritance. Okay, so hence these are inherited attributes from both the staff. So either he can get name ID from this path or that path. So this is a multi-level. Okay, so that is not, it is a multi-path inheritance. That is why it is called as multi-path inheritance. So are we clear on this, guys? If you have any doubt, please ask me now itself.
Sir, what is the need of two names? Like